Alongside learning why Keith drops off money to Nikki's group, it's also revealed who sent that letter to Regan regarding the infidelity. So to start off, let's answer the question of who sent the letter, and the answer to that is Will. Will caught Sam and Keith having sex on the couch, and thanks to Regan finding Will's laptop with a keyboard missing a letter, she puts one and two together, and with that, she figures out it's her son that sent the letter to her. Following up the answer to that question, the next question is, what is with these drop-offs? And it's pretty much shown to us that Nikki and Amory have some type of deal going, and while it isn't clear what led to the relationship or how Amory benefited, what is clear is that he is financing Nikki's operation, and Keith has been doing a drop-off so that there's some level of separation between Nikki and Amory. But after the last act of arson with fireworks causing a little bit too much attention being drawn to the location, Amory decides to cut Nikki off, and of course threats are issued, but being that Nikki can't really touch Amory, instead he goes after Keith, who gets hurt in the usual ways of, Saul beating somebody up. Going into the third topic, it's less about questions being answered and just having more questions to ask. And this begins with Detective Parson McFadden trying to comb through Sam's zine in order for some type of clues, but outside of learning C is for Charlie and Preppy is probably Keith, they don't really get much. But thankfully for them, William gets arrested on solicitation, and with him being informed that a fan is so into him that they made a zine and all this other information, he decides to unofficially join the case as some kind of detective, and because of the help that he is able to give through questioning, alongside of course his family's name, rather than charge him, Detective Parson lets him go. But there's plus and minuses when it comes to William being involved. The plus is that he is really keen on trying to solve Sam's murder, but the negative is he's still a drug addict. And with that comes the issue of him going from being addicted to heroin and, that being his dependency, to now being very much hooked on Sam's mystery and making that as something that keeps him from going to rehab. Which, of course, Mercer's not happy about, Bruno's not happy about, but at the same time, they know they can't force him to do anything he doesn't want to do. But he isn't the only one that's starting to get a little antsy when it comes to this whole Sam thing, because Charlie, with lacking any real answers or any information going forward, he's now starting to get a little bit panicky and he's starting to spiral a little bit. Luckily, when it comes to getting some type of aid or rather comfort, while Nikki's no longer in the mindset to give that to him, Suago compensates, especially because when it comes to Solomon, he'd rather kick Charlie out because he doesn't feel right about him being around. But more has gone into that when it comes to episode 5, but we'll talk about episode 4 right now. Anyway, Charlie spiraling, Suago comforts him. She tries to help him deal with the whole fact that there's wanted posters now up regarding Charlie by cutting his hair, and the two go close. So close, in fact, that Suago tries to come on to Charlie, but he rejects her. And you can tell she's a little surprised, but being that she still wants to be close to Charlie, she reveals that her government name is Lorraine, and with that, even if there's not a physical intimacy between them, she at least is trying to secure a mental or maybe emotional intimacy. But even with her doing that, that doesn't throw Charlie off from his main goal, and as he starts to explore the various books that Nikki and the group has, he remembers the book that Sam gave Nikki, and that leads him to start going through things, and while doing so, he discovers a roll of film. Now, unfortunately, it's 2003 in the show, so he can't just get things done quickly. He has to go get the film developed, and in the next episode, we learn what is on the film rolls that led to Sam having to hide it. Which leads to the last part of the final topic, which is what Regan's going through, and to make a long story short, Regan is just catching on to everything that Keith has done, whether it's being with Sam, messing around in the house, or even the fact that Will might be aware of what's happening. And with that, so comes bad timing, at least for Keith. for after getting his ass whipped by Solomon and someone else, then going home and having a conversation with Will, the cops show up, and it leaves us to wonder, have they perhaps found the smoking gun that they needed in order to book him, or is this just going to be a case of, following up on the evidence they have thus far? So in terms of the review section, perhaps the first highlight that's worth mentioning is that we got to hear some of Sam's zine. And I like it because the animation style is cool, the story is also interesting, and frankly, anything with City of Fire that involves Sam is usually a highlight and something that's entertaining compared to some of the other aspects which, you just suffer through. So for the second highlight, it's Charlie's love for Sam and perhaps Lorraine's envy of it. And I say that because at the heart of City on Fire is a boy in love, maybe infatuated, trying to solve his crush's murder. And he isn't alone in this, as we've seen, but I do wonder when it comes to Sam and her attachments to Nikki, maybe Solomon and the rest, how does Lorraine ultimately feel about this? Because with her trying to come on to Charlie, with her sexual relationship when it comes to Nikki and Solomon, there is this idea that maybe there was some type of envy or jealousy, and because Sam perhaps wouldn't sleep with these guys, but she would, maybe that's how she found a way to solidify her slot in this group. So when it comes to Charlie and him going through all this in order to find Sam, how he speaks of her and everything, maybe that's something that Sam had that, once again, Lorraine wants to secure for herself. So that's why she came on to Charlie, since she knows he's innocent, wet behind the ears, so she figured easy snatch up. But as seen, Charlie's not that kind of dude, and maybe in a way, him showing that he isn't, that's why she decided to tell him her government name, so that even if they can't have a physical intimacy, in order for them to have some kind of relationship, at the very least they can have some type of relationship that would allow him to not only open up to her and trust her, but maybe give her a taste of all these things that Sam is able to get from people without having to do as much. The next highlight for us is Amory and Nikki's relationship, and it's mainly because, one, we don't know how these two met, because they live in completely different worlds, but on top of that, it's also interesting to see Nikki be a bit of a hypocrite. He's very much anti-establishment in a way, anti-gentrification, yet Amory is the head of at least a national company that focuses on real estate and is not trying to build affordable housing. So pair that with getting some background on Amory about him being an orphan and then him wanting to build himself up and do anything in order to get to the heights that he believes he deserves to be. It makes you very interested in how Amory sees Nikki's role in his plans, never mind what he plans to do in terms of Regan's family, even if he's part of it, in terms of even exploiting them or else making them just a ring on a ladder that he has to step on in order to get to the top. As for offense topics, I seriously feel like we need to get some information on Solomon. We got some background on Amory this episode. To a point, we have information on Nikki regarding his relationship with William and maybe his leadership role as it is now. Lorraine revealed her past in regards to growing up in the South, moving up Northwest, all that stuff. So now Solomon is kind of the odd one out, and considering how violent he is and how weird he can sometimes be, getting some information on what led to this would be so good for this show, and I just hope they're not going to drag it out or make it so that he's just straight down the line a villain. So the last topic deals with Regan, and to be frank, Regan is becoming a liability and it doesn't look like it's getting better for her. William and him becoming a bit manic and attached to Sam's case and wanting to put all the pieces together, and him having enough knowledge to do so, that's making him into an asset. Amory becoming the proper villain for the show in terms of him pulling all the strings regarding Nikki, maybe him being involved in other things like the family business and taking out Bill Sr. It's making him notable, somebody you want to invest in. Regan continues to have nothing. Her relationship with Keith is not important. Her relationship with her son Will and the other kid we barely see, it gives nothing to the show. And while everyone else's trajectory is moving upward across the board, when it comes to hers, at best it's stagnant, at worst it's on a decline because everybody's eclipsing her so badly. Overall, when it comes to City on Fire, it remains a show that still is latching strongly onto Sam, but there is the slightest chance that other characters could perhaps make you also interested in the show, with the exception of Regan, who continues to be the type of character that just lacks any type of oomph, charisma, charm, doing something negative. It just, at this point, unless she's the one that ultimately shot Sam in some kind of way, I can't imagine getting any real notable reaction out of her throughout this whole season.